Look over these people like a temple.
We'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to the Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025 meeting of the Liberty Lake Planning Commission. We will begin with our roll call
Okay, Joe Mann,
here.
Tom Sahlberg, Jim Baumker, DG Garcia,
Here.
Charlie Jenks,
Here.
Phil Foyer, Gene Huschel,
Here.
and Troy Mullenix.
And Troy is trying to get online, but he was having technical difficulties earlier. So Evan will let us know if he does get online and promote him as a panelist.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got Commissioner Baumker, Commissioner Foyer, and Commissioner Sahlberg not here. Entertain a motion to excuse them. They've all asked for.
Move to excuse.
Is there a second? Second. Commissioner Garcia. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Would you please stand and join me in the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We will start with our general business review of the revised agenda. Any other additions or changes to the agenda? Entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Jenks, motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Herschel. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Approval of the minutes from July the 9th. Everyone had a chance to review that? Any additions or changes to those minutes? Entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Jenks. Second, Commissioner Garcia. All in favor? Aye. Workshop, utilities, public facilities and services. Oh, goody.
Thank you, commissioners. So I'm gonna kind of walk you through just a chapter overview. This looks a lot different than what was in the prior comprehensive plan. So first of all, we combined the utilities and essential public facilities chapter, but we also expanded this chapter significantly. We updated the utility goal. We did move the utility goals and capital facilities goals and policies into this chapter and updated them. But we also added what I think is a critical step in this process, a capacity review of utilities, schools, emergency services, and city facilities. Right now, we just have a placeholder for the master facilities plan, but a capacity review based on projected population growth, which is really the. Troy is fun. Okay, awesome. Welcome, Troy. Bottom line is that the methodology that we used, we didn't really, there were very vague descriptions of some of the utilities, but not even all of them. Staff actually met with Avista to talk about electric and gas, Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District about water and sewer, as well as Consolidated Irrigation District, and Spokane County Environmental Services regarding their sewer capacity. We also spoke with Spokane Valley Fire District and Liberty Lake PD, again, to understand what the implications were for their facilities and services that they provide. And as I said, we have a placeholder in there for city facilities because we are doing some master facilities plan right now that's going to feed into this. Now, this chapter does not include parks facilities, transportation facilities, nor does it include the 20-year capital facilities plan, which are actually separate elements within it, but we do note that in there. The reason why we moved capital facilities goals here is because it's really relevant. This chapter is intended to set the table for what we need to include in our capital facilities plan, which most of you have seen our 6-year capital facilities plan so that you know what that looks like. We have different categories of capital facilities, cost estimates for the improvements that are required, and project descriptions. That is a separate standalone document. We are going to have that for a 20-year period, but this chapter sets the table for that, along with parks facilities, the parks element and the transportation element. So that's important to know. It does, however, include essential public facilities in this chapter. And so first I wanted to take a pause and just explain to you what that is. Essential public facilities are those facilities that are typically difficult to cite, such as airports, state education facilities, and state or regional transportation facilities, state and local correctional facilities, solid waste handling facilities, and inpatient facilities, including substance abuse facilities, mental health facilities, and secure community transition facilities. So that is the state definition. So again, there's two kind of category. Well, there's actually three. There are essential public facilities of statewide significance, so that's serving the entire state. So think in terms of a state prison or a mental institution or something like that. There are county or essential public facilities of a countywide or regional nature. Think the county prison or those sorts of things. We could also have local. We don't really have, as you will see from the analysis that we did with capacity related to things like sewage treatment plants. Our sewage treatment plant is well positioned for capacity in the next 20 years and also has been designed for expansion capabilities. So I don't see us having to cite something like that. Waste transfer stations are another one, but we're too small of an entity to have our own transfer facility. So a lot of the local types of essential public facilities, really looking at what we need through build out, doesn't really apply to us. So we really focused on the other two in this chapter. And really, we're required to have this as part of our comprehensive plan. But back in 2001, the county went through a process of developing a siting process for essential public facilities. And all of the incorporated jurisdictions in the county were involved with the development of this siting process. It was adopted by the Board of County Commissioners as a countywide planning policy, and they entered into an interlocal agreement with all the various jurisdictions. This has not changed since 2001. And so what we have done with this section is we just cleaned it up and streamlined it a little bit, and made it a little bit more readable. But I did include in your packets a copy of the regional siting process, and we think that it should be included as an appendix to the comprehensive plan. If the policy is in there, the process should be in. So anyhow, that was the one thing I had. So with that, I'd like to shift to the actual document and go through kind of the goals and policies, and then we'll see if anybody had any other comments or edits or suggestions for the rest of the document. But it is basically, this is just a write-up of the meetings that we had for the most part with other with the utility and emergency service providers. So I'm going to go to get you situated here. So we start with policies on page 2 of this document, and I'm going to switch my share, if I may. Okay, so you know what? Escape. Stop the share. And then I need to. would think that I would be way better at this than I am. All the times I have to do it. I hate technology. All right, so let's go to page 2. And then we can go back through page by page, but I think the goals and policies are probably the meat of this document. One of the things that we did, and we may change this back, as we've been having discussions about the format of the final, is that all these goals and policies were originally in a standalone chapter. We're putting them back into the chapters that they reference, but putting them really very, very much to the front of those chapters. And one of the things that we're doing, goals were separated from policies previously. We are trying to sort the policies that are supporting specific goals. In this particular case, it was kind of easy because we only had one goal under utilities, and that was to maintain the energy, communication, solid waste disposal facilities and services, sewer capacity, and water supply needed to support current and future development. And then the policies, we didn't change a lot. We did change a little bit. One of them was under, prior to the approval of any proposed development inside city boundaries, project sponsors must demonstrate the adequacy of the planned sewer and water conveyance and treatment systems, system capacities in accordance with established level of service standards. And they also need to consult with the service providers. So that just minor wordsmithing of that. And I think that it is important to recognize that there's 2 elements to sewer and water conveyance and treatment. In terms of policy 4, again, just clarifying that priority consideration should be given to placement of telecommunication cable lines and other utility facility infrastructure in the front of the property, at the rear of properties, or in alleyways with easements. Typically, we don't own them, the HOAs do, but it's important that there are easements for that. And require undergrounding of all newly installed or extensively modified utilities under 50 kilowatt hours to protect view sheds and corridors. And the reason why I say that is actually per City Development Code 103G6A. Many of these chapters we're finding have not been updated since they originally adopted the first comp plan in 2003. So this changed a long time ago before my time in development code, but it's not consistent with what's in development code. So, again, not a lot of changes with policy 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, just a little bit of wordsmithing. There was a typo in there. Services should have been surfaces. And we did add a policy that alternative stormwater design methodologies as outlined in Washington Department of Ecology Stormwater Management Manual for Eastern Washington may be utilized as an alternative method to the Spokane Regional Stormwater Manual with prior approval from the city. That's something we do right now, and we felt like it would, I mean, likely when we do our development code, we will include that language in there, but I just wanted to acknowledge that we do that now. We should be recognizing that. And then for utility capacity, oh wait. Oh, where's the capital facilities piece of this? Oh, I'm sorry, it's in a different section. I forgot. So yeah, so there's 3 main categories: the utilities, the public facilities and services, and then the essential public facilities. So that's, give you a page in just a second. So that was utilities. Before we move from there, did anybody see any other goals or policies that we should have that are lacking in this.
I have a question. Are there any other jurisdictions in Eastern Washington that are going through this process and have incorporated in prior comprehensive plans or in their new plan that, goals or policies that address the use of reclaimed water?
So, yes, and one of the reasons we don't really include that here. I think that is because we basically do not control our wastewater facilities. So that's the county, and actually the county does have some rules and policies related to that. Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District has for a long time had some plans, but they haven't effectively implemented anything yet. But that's not within the purview of the city. And certainly we can encourage that, and that's certainly something that could be included, but we have to be kind of conscious of the
Sure.
fact that we're not in control of that.
They might say, if you want to pay for it, help yourself.
Right.
Right. But if we had a goal that said we would encourage the discussion and the transition into the use of reclaimed water citywide, might be a good thing.
Yeah, so I would put that as a policy, encourage, explore and encourage. The development of
I don't think you want to get too detailed
yeah,
in terms of the quality of water, but circulation, distribution, and using the water for that purpose, I think is
Yeah.
a good idea.
the reuse. I'm just gonna, how's this sound, Charlie? Explore and encourage the opportunities for reuse of gray water.
Reclaim water.
Okay. Everybody uses different, different words for it, but yeah, okay, that works. Explore and encourage opportunities for the reuse of reclaimed water, or for the use of reclaimed water.
Perfect. Jumping ahead just a little bit, I was reading a little bit about the solid waste component of the plan. And do you know offhand how many people are not opting to have Waste Management pick up their refuse?
It's a small amount, but there are people that do choose to haul to the transfer facility. And one of the things I will say is that we will be doing a solid waste plan update. In fact, Ben Turner, our new public works director, was going to be undertaking that. And the proposals we got back were significantly more expensive than what was budgeted. So it's probably going to be a next year thing.
Sure.
Yeah, I know.
Well, and the reason why I ask is the only way you can really effectively get, at least given my experience, to a really good recycling system is when you have mandatory compliance. In other words, everybody signs up, it goes on your real property tax bill, everybody pays, and then you contract, everybody gets picked up, and then you can do really good comprehensive recycling.
I agree with that. We're a small jurisdiction and it has to happen at a larger level, but mandatory curbside separation, mandatory recycling is a very effective tool. When back in New York, we were doing that in the late 80s.
You can only do that if everybody signs up.
That's well, and there's ways that you can do it because we contract for service. We could, what the city of Spokane does is they put it on their sewer and water bills because they control sewer and water. So you could bill it to people,
Mhm.
or you could the city would have to be involved. Be a middleman if we required
Right.
everyone to do it, even though we're contracting for the service. We would have to create a means to collect. As opposed to waste management, which right now we just contract and people contract directly, they pay directly.
Right.
And we aren't involved in that. One of the things that I will say is that there was some conversation about that at city council level related to the waste management contract. And there did not appear at this time to be an appetite to even consider requiring mandatory pickup. And so that's, I'm not sure a policy like that proposed by the planning commission would have any legs at this time, because there are people that would prefer to haul their own garbage. It is less expensive.
Well, and you've also got the problem is the markets for recycled goods is
Yeah.
dwindling.
Zero. Right.
And it's
It's
really
a
a
tough
problem.
sell. It's a tough.
Yeah. Making it mandatory means you've got an entity that's getting all this stuff and got no place to put it.
Well, what ends up happening, it goes to the waste to energy
Right.
facility, or it goes into the trash, but yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Okay,
So anyhow,
enough.
so it's a complex system. I'm sorry.
we may get there someday.
You're talking to an old garbage geek, so.
Same.
I have a quick question. Why are not the city hall an essential public facility? Why is
Well-
that not categorized there?
Well, so, again, because I don't think it's necessarily difficult to cite. These are facilities that basically people don't want in their backyard. I would hope that a city hall wouldn't be an essential public facility. But regardless, the city would not want to go through the county citing process, so.
Okay, I'm just curious why.
And that's what the agreement basically says, is that we will do the citing, utilizing the county citing process, and then we'll go through this county hearing examiner, and the decision will be out of our hands.
Okay.
So getting back to, the, public facility and service goals and policies, which used to be called capital facility goals and policies, start on page 8. So didn't really change a lot of these, because again, I think that I'm looking to all of you to tell me what, if anything, you'd like to see changed in this. I think policy 17 just had some grammatical cleanup. Same with policy 22. And that's nothing really substantive changed. And again, at the end of this, please note that, please refer to Parks, Arts, Recreation, and Open Space and Trails chapter and the Transportation chapter respectively for the Parks and Transportation Facilities Goals and Policies. Refer to the Climate and Natural Resource chapter for Stormwater and Water Conservation Goals and Policies. That is one of the things that we're kind of making certain that there's a crosswalk, that when people are looking for specific things, we'll probably do some sort of a matrix table to kind of direct people eventually because there's a lot of crossover with a lot of goals and policies. But for right now, we're just making notes of this in these chapters, and it's a good starting place anyhow to do that. So with that, I guess I would ask if anybody saw any goals or policies. There's only, again, with public capital facilities, there's only one goal: continue to provide desired levels of public service in a cost-effective and sustainable manner. Gosh, who could argue with that?
Any comments? Questions?
No.
Shall we move on?
All right, so then let me get out my only other question I'm going to keep in this I'm gonna keep in the document. I'm just gonna go through. I just want to ask if anybody had any changes that they would like to see. Any comments, any questions within the chapter as a whole. Again, a lot of it is just reporting out what the meetings that we had with the various entities and just clean up of what was previously provided in the comp plan.
A lot of this is driven by these outside agencies. I mean,
Yes.
and they've got their own cost structure and regulatory structure that's separate from the city of Liberty Lake. So it's, other than, encouraging them to do something, it's
Right.
pretty tough.
And this makes it really clean that we are required to address capital facilities that are required to support our population. We're in a good position because we really didn't hear a lot of that. And what we heard is that they're already planned. The only exception was with the Vista, which does their capital planning on a 5-year cycle. And they don't have any improvements in this 5-year cycle, and they're just starting on the next 5-year cycle. But they had no concerns about the population growth that we are experiencing.
Spokane Transit has no,
So Spokane Transit, we will actually discuss that. That's more part of the transportation chapter. And so as we get a little farther into, we need to complete our network analysis before we can work on the transportation chapter, but that's where that will fall in. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? This will, we can clean this up. I will add the policy suggested. I guess we probably should get a vote on that, shouldn't we?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we want to add, would you read it again, please?
Yes, so this is a proposed new policy under utility goals and policies. And that is to explore and encourage opportunities for the use of reclaimed water.
Is there a motion to accept that change?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Herschel, second by Commissioner Garcia. Any discussion? I think it's a great idea. I think that's one of the things. I mean, even if we can't do it right away, it's kind of like the discussion that went on last night with City Council about the goals. Even if we can't make it 100% there, we should at least begin trying and looking at it and thinking about it. So I think it's a great idea. Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Added it in.
Get out of stop the share. Get out of. Go back to my PowerPoint. So did that. So now I just wanted to revisit and we start my slide. And I'm still not sharing. Again, one would think I would have this down by now. All right, so I need to. All right, there we go. So I wanted to just revisit the employment forecast summary with you all. So we included the actual memo, which will become, by the way, an addendum to, the addendum to the comp plan. But we are going to do a write-up in the economic development chapter, which I will bring back to you. This is an important memo, though, specifically because we want to send it out to all of the utilities and public service providers that we met with, so they have that information. It is a specific input for our transportation network analysis, and which we also want to provide this information to SRTC, STA, and from a transportation standpoint, also adjacent jurisdictions, Spokane County and Spokane Valley. So that I just wanted to share with you, it's an important piece of data that has tentacles and a lot of other things. It's going to be a couple paragraphs and a few charts within the economic development chapter, but I feel like it's important that I give you just a little bit of context, because I think that the consultants did a good job of presenting the data on a technical level, but I kind of wanted to give you context with this. So the trend analysis that we did had to do with, the green line was the 10-year linear trend line. The yellow line was the compounded trend line by industry group, basically. And so we did a trend line for each of those industry groups and added them together. They're actually very close, those two. Third one was doing looking at the jobs to housing ratio and having that trend continue. And we also looked at projecting the jobs to housing ratio based upon our current ratio, just projecting it forward. So that gives us kind of a range between about 12,000 and about 15,000 jobs. One of the things we wanted to do is go back to our land capacity analysis and say, do we have enough land to support the projected population? And so what we did was we looked at that two ways. We looked at the land capacity based upon what we have achieved, the achieved floor area ratio. And I know we don't regulate floor area ratio, but it's still a valid way to look at how much coverage are we, how much lot coverage are we getting currently? And I think that we have a lot of developments that have reserved area for expansion. So I think what has been achieved is much lower than what actually would be done there. That's number one. Number two is that we looked at the land capacity based upon available vacant lands at the maximum lot coverage that we would allow. And so those are kind of the bookends to this analysis, which the whole point of the analysis was to say, do we have enough land to support the potential employment projections? And the answer is yes, we do. So that is the point of this exercise. But as I said, these are also important inputs. Those range, the trend lines are very important inputs for particularly transportation, but we will be providing it to all the other service providers also.
I have a question. Does the state of Washington, or perhaps Spokane County, have a policy where if you're a landowner, you own agriculturally viable land, you can put that, for lack of a better term, in a bank and pay less real property tax on it to keep that business viable?
If it's appropriate soils types. So they
Okay.
it's actually based
Is
upon.
that a statewide deal?
It is a statewide deal there. It actually is part of the Growth Management Act, but it's kind of funky. I know that the city of Spokane had looked at that, particularly in the Latah Valley area, because they do still have some agricultural uses, and there are some agricultural lands that are.
Do we have any in Liberty Lake?
We do not.
We do not.
We do not.
Okay.
First of all, what we have is river rock. It's not great
Yeah.
soil. It's why.
So it's not Class A soils that we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. That's number one. Number two is that we just really didn't have that. When you look at, if you look at the aerial map, the areas that are vacant right now were up till a couple years ago being farmed for grass, the bluegrass. But that's just a placeholder until they develop. It's, tenant farming.
I was just concerned because if we had land that had that possibility, then we could see these trend lines shifting because the housing, for whatever reason, environmental group pressure or whatever, could push the absorption of that land into the housing inventory out, which would then change the job creation and employment stats in the city.
Potentially.
But we don't have it, so
But, and that's potentially true, it's not necessarily true, because again, when we project employment, we're using several different indicators and come up with a range. But you're right, if we did that, it would affect those, jobs, housing ratios, so that would affect those projections. But at the end of the day, again, everything that, when we deal with projections, we're utilizing an assumption that what's happened in the past will continue in the future, and that's not always necessarily the case. And I will say this, that is one of the challenges that we have as a community that's building out, because I don't have other tools in the toolbox to say, okay, what happens after we hit build out, other than to really, that's what that land capacity piece is about. And we have enough to do everything that we're projected to do in this 20-year period. Amy's gonna have fun with the next, next comp plan.
So in our development code, we don't have a floor area ratio component. We have lot coverage, those kinds of things, site
But we do
coverage.
not in our development code, that is correct.
So you mentioned earlier in this discussion that these folks used an FAR ratio,
So,
plug that into this analysis.
yes.
Are we close to what they would
No, so the
expect?
bottom line, that bottom dotted line up on the screen.
Yeah.
Is the achieved floor area ratio. When we say achieved, that's what has been built to date.
Okay,
That's not necessarily what's going to be built in the future, as we can see, if you look at what's happening right now in the Knoll in the River District. That is, you're seeing a vastly different floor area ratio than we have seen in our community previously.
so that number per acre is gonna go up.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so that, and I mean, this is what we've been doing right now is not far off from the lowest projection, which is the job housing trend continues, I believe that's what that is, yes. Housing ratio trend continues, yeah. Jobs housing ratio. So that's our lowest projection, and that, but it's still pretty close to that. But obviously, if there's demand for economic expansion, more jobs, which generates more jobs. There is the capability within our code for things to be developed more densely.
so given the current code, we could accommodate that increase
That's,
density.
that's exactly the point. That is exactly the point.
Okay, we don't need to change anything. Because when I drive around, I'm looking at huge parking lots. And I'm thinking to myself, what were these people thinking? When I look at the value of land, I'm thinking, who made this decision?
And again, in some cases, it's because of the number of employees. I mean, Meadowood Tech campus is an anomaly. That was a huge employer. The HP headquarters back in the 80s, huge employer. That was parking for employees. It's way over parked for what is there today. And there are some other examples of that around, but there's also, but again, the flip side of it. In fact, we were just talking in design review about the Garland Theater, because we were looking at a design review on a theater in the River District community theater. And one of the things that we were talking about is what happened there. It's great to have walkable communities if you live in that neighborhood. But if you want to take advantage of those businesses and you live outside of that neighborhood or outside of that area, you still need parking.
Yeah.
And so there's kind of a tension. One of the things our code actually used to have minimum and maximum parking requirement. But one of the things that we were seeing is people were coming in time after time, requesting a variance and giving us data showing us that the use that they have actually demands more parking than what was in the maximum in the schedule. And so we took that out because again, the concept is people, because as you said, parking is expensive. It's very expensive. It's very very land intensive and expensive. Nobody's gonna build more parking than what they need. No business is they're gonna wanna find that sweet spot, however, because too little parking is going to limit your ability to maximize your profits. So it's kind of but we leave the business case to the business people.
That's smart. Mr. Chair, thank you for indulging me. I appreciate it.
Not at all. Let's move on.
Right.
That's good information for everybody.
So did anybody have any questions or comments or concerns related to the memo that just really provided all the data behind the presentation we had last time around?
Solid. No, it's pretty straightforward and there's,
Yeah.
that not a lot we as a planning commission can do about this particular part of it. So
Data is data.
data is data. Yeah.
But I think it's important for you, planning commission, to understand the data because it is important for the planning.
Yeah,
that we're doing.
it does give us the basis for understanding what we're doing about buildings and facilities and all of that, transportation. So.
A subtle comment in regards to fire. As you see in the display on page 3, we talk about finance, insurance, and real estate listed as an acronym,
Yes.
but then under industry group, we just list it as fire. I would think it should be consistent.
Okay, that is
It's 4-letter period, just.
it's a fair comment, unless we parenthetically listed it as fire, but it should be F.I.R.E. And I
Sure.
want to know if we mentioned it before the paragraph that identifies that.
It's in the paragraph below it.
Yeah, I would say that we probably need to
Yes,
spell it out.
Yeah.
Especially with the fire that we deal with on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis here.
Great catch.
Good catch.
Good catch.
Any other questions, comments, observations? Troy, you're not asleep, are you?
Okay, I am here if you can hear me now. So sorry for the issues earlier, but no, everything good on my end. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right, just wanted to check. Thank you.
Thanks, Troy.
Any other comments on employment? And we shall move on. Citizen comments. Do we have any citizens online? Do not. Well, seeing none, we will move on to Secretary's report.
So first of all, I just want to share with you that last night we had a special council meeting to discuss the greenhouse gas sub-element of reduction sub-element in great detail. And the bottom line, for those of you who weren't online, I think I
I
heard
was
you
online.
were. For those of you who weren't online, the bottom line is that we're making one small change. There's a graph in there that they also want to see in tabular form. And they also want to see a statement about the cost of doing the 5-year check-in, the 5-year analysis, and we go into detail what that looks like. And that the city has the option to do to review metrics more frequently, based upon or depending upon the availability of resources.
Where does that 5-year document go?
it goes to Commerce, it'll come to you first, and then
Sure.
what we have to do, but what we have to do is we're gonna have to do the greenhouse gas, basically that whole methodology all over again, provide a report, that will come to you, and then we'll get, and we'll get submitted to Commerce. Presumably, the intent, and again, presumably the intent would be if we are falling significantly behind the targets that we had set, or that we had anticipated, we may be expected to revisit goals and policies and look at other strategies to try and step up the pace. I'm presuming that it's not in code right now. I'm not sure how Commerce is going to deal with it. All we're mandated to do is measure it again and see what progress we're making.
Does it end up with the Department of Ecology?
It does not. This is through
Okay.
Commerce.
Strictly commerce, partner commerce.
That's as far as it goes, Department of Commerce.
Well, right, and the other thing that's interesting is that WashDOT is also tracking this very issue, and so, but it doesn't go to WashDOT, it goes to Commerce,
And that's probably a good thing.
probably so.
Okay.
So I wanted to share with you a little bit, just a progress update on the comp plan as part of this. And I really wanted to do this because I wanted you to see how far we've come already in this planning process. So we have a working draft of the population and housing element. We now can say that we have a draft GHG sub-element, and we're moving pretty quickly on the climate resiliency piece as well. So that's, and again, we're gonna be, because of the 120-day review with Commerce, this looks like it's not a lot of work in here other than maybe engaging the public. Once we get those two working, draft elements done. But, land use, we have a working draft of that. Transportation, we are well on our way in terms of the network analysis. And when that is wrapped up, we should be able to very shortly thereafter address the transportation element. Parks, recreation, and open space, that plan is moving right along also, and that's going to serve as basically the springboard for updates to the parks plan will be a complete plan, standalone plan that will be appended to the comprehensive plan, but we will have a summary of it in the as an element within the comprehensive plan. And my understanding is that we are, based on the meeting I had yesterday, they're beginning to take a crosswalk with goals and policies from the existing parks plan and the existing comp plan and the other chapters that we have gone through here. So I'm sending that out to them. And so we will likely be vetting some goals and policies with you at your meeting in, I think that was one that we were going to be doing in, let's not have it there. September 10th. We should be vetting some of those goals and policies after they've been vetted with the Parks and Arts Commission. So that's pretty exciting. Cultural and historic is just about done. We've got a draft a working draft of that. Utilities and essential public facilities with the changes that you made today. I think this is probably going to red line. It won't be done until the public facilities plan is done. Because I've got that one chapter, so we'll bring, or that one section we'll bring back to you once the public facilities plan is done. But that is, we're now in the throes of engagement. That's going to be the focus of that over the next month or so. And we should have something on that by September. So that one's a little bit behind schedule, but that's okay.
Lisa, do you see any link between Parks and Rec and Open Space Plan and Capital Facilities Plan?
So so one of the reasons why the capital facilities plan is the very last. So even all of these, this chapter feeds into it, the parks plan feeds into it, the transportation plan feeds into it. The actual master facilities plan
Okay.
will also feed into it. Those all feed into it. The 20-year capital facilities plan is gonna be just that, and the city's never done one before, but we think it's really important because we're looking at build out in the next 20 years. So now is the time to do it and to make sure that we're planning for the facilities that we need to support our population and employment.
So they do a 20-year,
We will be doing it 20-year.
nothing shorter than that.
We every year do a 6-year. And so typically, and that's all the city's ever done is a 6-year. Other communities within the state will do it for the entire planning period. When I was a consultant and I used to do metropolitan transportation plans, those are required to the full period of the plan. And what you do is you do a fiscally constrained to project what you think your revenues are going to be, what potential grant funding might look like, what things, but you have at least a plan. You also have, we used to refer to it as I'm spacing. Basically, they're potential projects that are not funded. That if funding did become available, it was something that the community valued. So we, so we will be doing that as part of this cycle of periodic comp. And really, the implementation plan is the last piece other than adoption. And what's interesting is the adoption process. So we'll have a draft plan, and we'll have to have hearings. We'll have to, first of all, we have to send it to Commerce for a 60-day review, and to Spokane County and Spokane Valley for review and comment, SRTC, STA, all of those other involved agencies. And then we'll go to hearings here, and then it's city council, etc. So it's a process. You planning commission, you'll have a couple touches on it during that, but most of it is going to be outside of yourselves, which is why we're really targeting trying to get this to a place where by we're pretty much wrapping it up in 2026, and we're adopting it by June of 2026, because we want to spend the better part of next year working on the development code amendments. That's a pretty heavy lift.
So are you gonna have the utilities come in and present to us
No.
or discuss?
We did this, so Amy and I and Ben Turner and met with all of the different agencies and did that. They will have the opportunity to review this.
Right.
I actually have notes from our meetings that I actually sent to each of them, and they to make sure that my notes were an accurate reflection of what they said. That's what you see in this utilities chapter. Originally, we were thinking that we were going to do that, but given availability, time constraints, the number of utilities that we actually talked to, it was pretty, seemed like this was a more efficient way to do it, so. But they will have the opportunity to comment on this chapter. So in fact, once we make the changes that you've made and get it cleaned up, I will be sending it to all of them. For feedback, because it is just a working draft. So.
Mr. Chair, I just have one more question, then I'll stop talking. Do you, as a planning director, do you do a yearly report on how many permits are applied for and approved, the timeframes?
I have not done an annual report. I do the monthly reports,
Okay,
and that is what that you get, the community development report. That's our
Okay.
monthly report.
Okay.
We've never been asked to do an annual report, and frankly,
it's a pain in the neck, but
it is I think you're getting a real time view of what's going on, month to month, and council's getting that also. We could certainly do it. Time obviously is a premium for us.
The reason why I ask is I was looking at this economic report
Mhm.
and and maybe it's in there and maybe I missed it and I apologize if I did miss it. But I think the regulatory environment plays a role in economic development.
I think so too.
And should we, if it isn't in there and I didn't see it, should there be a section in that section, a subsection in that section that talks about the regulatory environment in Liberty Lake and how well we're doing with regard to permitting and facilitating economic development?
It would feel to me to be self-serving to include that in there.
Well, maybe that's
We did-
okay.
I think that we have a reputation. We have a very positive reputation. And people say it all the time, you know, but having said that, it's hard for me to write that.
But
Hard to be
but
great.
if I'm a bond guy, I'm gonna go to that document. I'm gonna look at that document. Because the city of Liberty Lake is asking me for money, and I might go to that document and I might look at that and say, you know what? These guys are doing a great job. Here's the money. And by the way, you're gonna get a reduced
We
rate.
have talked about, and so that we're maybe approaching it a little bit differently, in terms of this, priority-based budgeting. We have talked about doing some surveying of our permittees after the fact, before and after, and kind of trying to get at that in a way that it's data-based rather than the world according to Lisa.
But adding it into that element, I think would be a plus. If it's good, if it's good news, if it's efficient and people like what they're getting, then I think it's okay to brag on yourself.
I think that it probably has a better place, because this is a 20-year planning document, it probably has a better place maybe in a 5-year strategic plan.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion. But I think that your point's well taken, it's just awkward for me.
It drives everything. If people drive into Liberty Lake and come and speak to you, then leave town with their hair on fire, that's not a good sign. But if they come into Liberty Lake, meet with you, and they're saying to themselves, see, you know what? I could put another 1,000,000 square feet over here, and I could do it in a timely manner. That's a very positive thing. And it changes that graph. Just food for thought. I'm done.
Thank you for that.
You should be a politician.
Yeah. No.
Hey,
I just wanted to touch real quickly on engagement. Farmers Market continues. This is the schedule going forward on that. Barefoot in the Park is on the 2nd, from 10 to 4. We do have our climate element virtual open house ongoing. So if you haven't jumped into that or taken the survey, it'd be great. Please continue to push it out to people. And our housing town hall, energy conservation town hall, and Firewise town hall are to be determined. One of the things is because we still haven't gotten our grant from Commerce for the second biennium for our climate piece, kind of holding off on that a little bit because we're afraid we might get a little pushback. That maybe they consider that to be more implementation, which yes. So plus just capacity wise, we're kind of struggling. But the other thing I wanted to say is, so our next meeting on the 13th, we are going to be reviewing the draft sign code revisions and red lines, and we will get that to you at least a week in advance. I will also provide you with just the updated economic development chapter that'll have the write-up of the employment in there. And we don't even have to necessarily talk about that. I think we're gonna have a lot to talk about with sign code, but I just figured it was a good thing to stick in your packets so that you could see it one more time in case anybody had any concerns about how it's presented.
And you had a consultant for the sign code, right?
Yes.
Are they gonna bring in some examples so we can get through this and see like an image? That explain text?
Well, I think we're gonna have some of that in the code. We haven't, I don't know,
Received it, it's supposed to come in today. It's when we're supposed to receive.
so, but I would expect there would be one of the things that we had said is.
Cause
that
it's
we
pretty
wanted to
dry,
have-
it's pretty dry stuff.
It is, but we wanted to have more graphics, and the graphics in our sign code right now are terrible. They don't, they're.
Up to you.
Anyhow, yeah, that's coming forward. That's gonna be an important meeting though. And on August 27th, and I'm gonna just plant the seed right now, on August 27th, one of the topics that we have added to your new schedule is the 6-year capital facilities plan. We are starting that early. We're gonna have a working draft of it. What we're thinking for the 20-year capital facilities plan is that we would like to put together kind of a little bit of a steering committee, kind of like what we did for the CPAT, for the climate piece. And we're thinking that we're probably going to, I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to be seeking your feedback, as I will be doing with the Community Engagement Commission, the Parks and Arts Commission, and the Library Board. And then we're also going to be asking people, the boards, to consider nominating a person from their commission or their board to serve on this 20-year capital facilities plan kind of steering committee. This is a pretty big undertaking, and I think we want to have a pretty broad perspective from people that are already really engaged with the city and knowledgeable. We'll probably have a couple of at-large positions as well. But this is something that was suggested on an ongoing basis. And we want to kind of do a proof of concept with the 20-year capital facility plan, which is maybe a larger lift anyhow, that would be, and really does need the input of all of these various perspectives. So that was a really long secretary's report. I apologize about that. We're
Right?
still done.
Planning Commissioner reports. Any planning commissioner reports?
Nope.
Seeing none, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're done.
57 minutes.